Hello everyone, and welcome to another devlog for Bottled Sky, an action exploration game with a big drill. I want to go over as many of the known bugs as I can and fix them up. One of those bugs has been hidden just off camera in every video,
is completely game-breaking,
and has gone unfixed
for nearly a year.
As usual, I prefer not to get too technical with these videos. You'll get to see what I've been hiding off camera in most of my videos, but you don't need to know about the code causing these bugs. Generally, I fix bugs as I find them, but sometimes I encounter them when working on completely unrelated code and decide to leave them until later so I don't break my workflow. Or sometimes I don't find a quick solution, I'm under a time constraint to finish a feature for an event or a video, and the effects of the bug are just not serious enough to work overtime for. Those bugs get logged in my Trello board, so I remember to look at them later. Each of these bugs gets tagged with a severity level. A major bug can mean anything from having a noticeable and negative effect on gameplay, all the way up to breaking the game entirely, like causing crashes. These kinds of bugs should absolutely be fixed before I push the game out to any public audience. A moderate bug is usually something that players might notice, but does not have a significant effect on gameplay. These kinds of bugs might be acceptable in a beta or early access setting, but should be fixed before fully releasing the game. Finally, minor bugs are bugs that are barely perceptible and have negligible or no impact on gameplay. They might even be beneficial for reasons such as being more performant, being a charming kind of bug, or actually being more fun than what was originally intended. Some of these bug cards were written as early as March last year, so I haven't gone through this list in a while, but thankfully it's not that big of a list. The last bug fixing video I did was nearly 2 years ago in September 2022. It's possible that some bugs might not exist anymore, or fixing one thing might solve more than one issue, or I might choose to leave some in if I think they're an improvement overall, or it might be too hard to fix for too little gain. Enough rambling, let's crush some bugs. Let's start easy with the minor bugs. 5 months ago, in February, I noticed that the subtle wingtip trail visual effect was being drawn behind the planets in the background. You can tell I didn't test this thoroughly because I worded this like I wasn't sure if I actually saw it or not. I don't blame past me because it really is a subtle visual effect, and it's hard to tell if it's working or not. But I checked the code and confirmed that the trails were still set to a default layer which is drawn underneath just about everything including planets. Fixing this took under a minute, so I've wasted much more time writing this part of the script than actually fixing the bug. Moving on. At the end of August last year, I noticed that the planets were sometimes disappearing. I blame something called origin shifting. This is a technique that involves keeping the camera near the center of the game world by occasionally shifting the camera to the center of the world when it strays too far. When you do this, you also need to shift everything else in the entire game world by the same amount that you shifted the camera. The reason why you would do this is to avoid a problem called floating point imprecision. There are multiple symptoms to this problem, but the one I mainly wanted to avoid is that it causes objects to rapidly shake in a glitchy way when you explore too far away from the center of the world. Here's an example of this happening in Shapes 2. Being a large open world, I can't really stop this from happening, but I can make sure that the player never sees it happen. I don't care if objects far away are glitching out. Most far away objects are disabled anyways. I just don't want it happening on screen, so I created my own origin shifting solution. I have a feeling that there is a mistake in this code and it's actually responsible for multiple bugs in the list. However, after exploring this issue a bit, it doesn't look like there's any issues with my origin shifting solution, but more specifically, there were issues with how planets were interacting with origin shifting. I changed one word in the code and it's now fixed. But this likely won't fix any other bugs, so let's jump over to the next bug. This next bug is one I just found now while fixing the disappearing planet bug. When you press the boost button, there is an initial resource cost that you pay before you start paying continuously as you hold down the boost. I found that if I had 0 boost resource left after paying the initial cost, then I could endlessly boost as long as I held down the boost button. It was definitely fun flying around with the extra mobility, so this might inspire the creation of an item or upgrade in the future, but for now I can't leave this as it is. Next, I tried fixing this bug, where the spin animation that triggers when you boost can occasionally spin in the wrong direction. Once upon a time, the spin used to get paused if you start drilling something during the spin animation, but that has since been changed and I can no longer reproduce the bug. This next bug has also already been fixed. I considered keeping this one in the game, but I must have made a change at some point that inadvertently fixed it. Here's another bug related to origin shifting. When everything shifts, many particle effects disappear because in Unity they're not game objects that I can easily just move around, and trail effects may stretch from before and after a shift. Here you can see the trail from the dropped items streaking across the screen. Here you can see the faint trail from the wingtips, and here the fire particles from the thrusters disappear temporarily. These are just a visual bug, and it only happens very occasionally, so I will likely not fix this for most particle effects. I will just choose the most egregious ones and fix them as if they are each their own bug. Those are the 3 visual effects that I ended up fixing, but I'll keep an eye out in future and be mindful of how new particle effects might behave during an origin shift. For anyone else using Unity and using some kind of origin shifting technique, don't simulate your particle effects in world space. Here's the last visual bug on the list. When you boost, the thruster fire particles really flare up, but when you hit an asteroid and start drilling, you enter a drilling mode, which is separate from normal movement, and for some reason this affects the thruster particle effects. I swear I remember this working normally when I first built the feature, but at some point earlier this year I noticed it not working. The gameplay effects of boosting and drilling were still working fine, and after this fix, the particle effects look fine too. And now, for this game-breaking doozy of a bug that has been plaguing me for nearly a year. I can't tell you how annoying it's been trying to get proper game footage involving this game's enemies without triggering this bug. The last video I made, which was entirely dedicated to making the combat camera, required so many retakes and is ultimately why I'm finally resolving to tackle this bug. I've briefly looked into trying to fix this before, but I didn't find a solution right away, so I dropped it and left it for another time. My best guess for why this is happening is that I must have incorrectly set them up with my chunk disabling system. The game world is divided into cells on a grid which I call chunks. Each chunk contains a list of entities such as the shuttle, asteroids, and enemies. Every time the camera moves to a different chunk, I disable all entities in chunks that are too far away and enable entities in chunks that are now close enough to the camera. This is necessary because if I kept all entities enabled in an endless procedural world, then performance would become a critical issue very quickly. I know that there is nothing wrong with the chunk disabling system itself because various other entities like asteroids work just fine, except these 2 enemies. My guess is they are incorrectly reporting their chunk location and are being treated like they're in a disabled chunk. Perhaps they're not accounting for the origin shifting, but I'll do some testing first to find out the truth. It took a little bit of time to dig around and find the exact cause, but once I figured it out, it was an easy fix. As it turns out, they were not reporting their chunk location at all, except when they first spawn. I'm glad none of these bugs were that difficult to fix. There wasn't any need to restructure any code as they were mostly one-line fixes, but the hardest part about fixing bugs in code you wrote months or years ago is entirely about testing and finding the source of it. Luckily, since I restarted this game's development from scratch in 2022 with a focus on having better code architecture, I have a decent chance of guessing the cause right away. All that's left is to just recreate the bug and record it for this video. I did take some time to refactor how entities behave and change based on how far away they are from the camera. That could come in handy if I want to simulate more of the world at once in a limited capacity at larger distances. For example, asteroids don't really need to have colliders when far enough away from the camera, so I can reduce performance cost caused by calculating physics collisions, but also allow them to still move. It opens up more possibilities for not just performance optimizations, but also enabling the game world to feel more alive. That's going to be something I'd like to focus on next month, so look forward to the next video. Subscribe if you want to be notified when that video comes out, and leave a like if you enjoyed the video. I know bug fixing isn't exactly all that glamorous, but it's a reality of any software development and a very important step that shouldn't be skipped. I typically make all my videos more about design and intent rather than tech, but I don't want to shy away from making videos about the trials and tribulations of making games just because the YouTube algorithm probably won't favor it. After all, my primary goal here is to make a game, not run a YouTube channel. Any success on YouTube that I find along the way is purely coincidental, but I appreciate and take on board all the feedback that I get. On that note, if you have any questions or feedback, I'm happy to answer those in the comments of these videos, or you can join the Discord server linked in the description. Thanks for watching, that's all for now, and I'll see you later.